This is my response to several allegations made against me, the most serious of which being that I sexually assaulted a former friend and ex-partner of mine named Orion in Orlando, Florida on February 18th, 2018.
I think it's safe to say a lot of crazy stuff has happened in the past few days. So for those of you that aren't terminally online like me and basically everyone involved in it, you might not be aware that the big commentary YouTuber Kwite was recently accused of some pretty serious stuff, like career-ending stuff. So one day everyone was just chilling on Twitter, then out of nowhere this account by the name of Orion, or Rasputin with like 3 eyes, I can't remember, came out with basically an entire twit longer saying that Kwite did some pretty bad things to him when they met up in 2018. Now I do just want to preface before I even get into this video, as you can see from the title and what I'm about to tell you, Kwite is innocent. Kwite's proved his innocence. He came with a lot more proof and receipts than Orion ever even did in the first place. I just had to add that there just so people don't get the wrong idea before watching this video. But essentially what happened was Orion came with hardly any evidence. They just had a whole entire story about it, and to show some legitimacy, because obviously if they didn't have any kind of proof that they even met Kwite or spoke to Kwite, no one would have believed them. But they did a pretty questionable, pretty bad thing, I would say, and they just doxed him. They leaked his face just to prove that they actually met each other. And obviously, Twitter being Twitter, everyone on there has maybe a combined IQ of 12. That was enough proof that they needed. They just needed a picture of him and Orion, and they would basically be okay with ruining this man's entire life and career, because that's enough proof for Twitter for some reason. Instead of being logical thinkers and normal people, instead of, you know, trusting the victim, but wanting to verify it first, aka waiting for both sides, instead Twitter just instantly starts atting Kwite, calling him a rapist, commenting on his videos, being like, why did you do that? What the fuck? They had the pitchforks up and they were basically ready to burn this man's house down. So Kwite, as any person would that wanted to clear their name, took a decent amount of time to write a perfect response to this situation. But, as I said, we're dealing with Twitter in this instance, so Twitter, if you don't respond the same fucking day, that's not enough for them, you're instantly guilty. Like, a week goes by and people start tweeting, Kwite's obviously done it, he's guilty, he's not responded yet. When this exact same thing happened with Slazzo in 2019, maybe these people weren't in the community around that time, maybe they weren't on Twitter, but you would think the ones that were would have learned to just wait by now, because if they rush their response, they're not going to be able to convey it very well. And once again, that's been proved correct, because Kwite's response was very fucking detailed, had all the receipts, and cleared his name perfectly. So today, what I want to do is I just want to look at some key parts of Kwite's response and just see how much Orion lied, and continues to lie on Twitter, by the way. Before we put that on, actually, when Kwite released his video, Orion then decided the best fucking course of action will be to fake a medical document for some reason. I don't know why. But if you take a look at this post on screen right now, it's a post that quite clearly details how it was faked. And even in the fucking original one, there is 2 lines that are copy-pasted. Like, Orion, mate, if you're gonna fake something, at least do it well, mate. Come on.
Cut to February, where we met up for the second time, and I remember it was February because we went to see Black Panther. It was fun, and I distinctly remember him getting out of my car, but stopping midway and saying, just remember I really care about you, and then closing the door, which made me feel really good because, you know, this was my best friend. We had met up for the second time. He still cares about me.
Okay, so notice how in that specific clip, that one being from 2018, but closer to when the actual situation happened. Notice how Orion just said that Kwite just got out of the car and told Orion that he cared about him. And then later on in the current twit longer, they basically just completely changed the story.
Every single thing I have been accused of, not just from this set of allegations, but the one Orion tried to spread in that video from 2018, have never once been substantiated by any solid evidence other than testimony. The only thing ever backing any accusations Orion made against me was a person saying that something happened, oftentimes while contradicting other things they said when giving separate testimonies. Currently, outside of proving that me and Orion did know each other, did meet up in person, and discussed sexual intimacy over text at some point, none of which is proof of anything malicious, Orion has failed to prove anything he claims I have done.
And this is where I have an issue with it. And by it, I mean Twitter and the whole response that happened on that website. The only proof that Orion showed was that they messaged each other sometimes on Discord and that they met in person. And I understand that it's very difficult to prove a rape. I understand that. But Orion barely even proved that they were in that kind of relationship. The only thing that made it seem like that was the come on the sheets message, but then Kwite gives context to that message later on.
This is my account of that day. When we met up on February 18th, at one point, me and Orion were in a shopping center and came across a store that sold plushies. I saw one I liked that I was looking to buy for myself as a keepsake of the trip. Orion, through what I assume was trying to be polite, didn't want to let me pay for the plush and was very insistent that I let him cover the cost. In general, I like to pay for my own things when out with friends, and around this time is when YouTube was first doing well for me, so I knew I'd have money coming in not far down the line. This made me want to pay for my own things even more. This plush was not a shared cost, it was something I wanted to get specifically for me. I genuinely did not want Orion to pay for my stuff when I felt I could finally do so on my own. That is more than likely a pride thing, but it is how I was. After going back and forth on it some, I directly communicated to Orion that I would be more comfortable if he let me pay for it myself, and I tried to be as direct and clear with this as possible. In response, Orion said something to the effect of, "Okay, I'll let you buy it if you give me a kiss later."
Once again, a direct contradiction to what Orion was saying in their twitlonger. Because in Orion's twitlonger, they were saying that they had like mutual flirting, and they would both flirt with each other sometimes, you know. But then it ends up turning out that it was Orion that made all the flirtatious moves first and Kwite found them uncomfortable. Majority of the time wasn't reciprocating them.
In regards to physical intimacy, the entire time me and Orion knew each other, I was the one most often expressing my hesitance on the matter, backing out because I got cold feet, or just outright denying to do intimate things with him. Meanwhile, Orion was always the one more forward about engaging in physical intimacy. Even if sometimes it was in a lighthearted context, Orion had a disregard for my personal choices and boundaries that I had expressed to them, often persisting beyond me showing clear discomfort and continuing to press even when I had directly declined the physical intimacy he would propose. One of the screenshots Orion used as proof of his claims is literally Orion floating and initiating the idea of us hooking up when we see each other, and my response is being unsure, then stating a reason why I wouldn't want to do it. He also cropped out the next message where he's the one to push for it even further by asking if I have condoms. You could read that as him trying to give solutions to a problem that I brought up, but I personally didn't want to continue with that discussion because I wasn't comfortable. Orion says that we had been on and off flirting and talked about how if we were both single and virgins, we would take each other's virginity. This is not something that was ever formally and fully agreed upon from my end, and much less as something we do at some specific place or time. The virginity thing was first mentioned over half a year earlier in August 2017, where Orion was the one to originally propose the idea in a voice call, and I was the one who wanted to think on it further. While I don't have a recording of that call for the exact wording, Orion specified that a heart message he sent was platonic, and in response, I joked that it didn't seem very platonic, just straight up gay. That's because we weren't talking about just cuddling or something in that vein. He had proposed explicitly having intercourse, and I was the one still unsure about it.
And those examples right there quite clearly disprove Orion's dishonesty in this whole situation. Because in the public eye, Orion was making it out to seem that Kwite was the one that was pushing for the sexual stuff most of the time. Whereas 9 times out of 10, it was actually Orion, and Orion also in their twitlonger blatantly took certain messages out of context and cut some parts of them for it to fit their narrative that they're trying to run with a lot better. Now, I'm going to leave Kwite's response there just because I don't want this entire video to just be Kwite's response, because I have had to use quite long sections of clips from his response. I had to fit his entire point in that he was making, and I tried to cut them down as much as possible, but I feel like if I cut them down any more than I already have, I would have been cutting out context and it wouldn't have made any sense. But now, moving on from that, I just want to talk about the people that decided to milk this situation for views and subscribers, because I think they're scummy bastards and they need to be called out for it. So first off, you got this guy called Haldin, where when this allegation first came out, he decided it'd be a good idea to just milk the shit out of it, so I called him out for it on Twitter. He sent me a very mentally sane DM. Now, obviously, realizing how mentally stable this guy definitely was, I didn't bother to reply. I didn't bother to entertain it, because if that's his mindset, it's not really any way of changing it. But I would argue this next guy is probably a lot worse than Haldin, just because this guy basically uploaded daily videos on the Kwite stuff. And the next guy is this guy called Sleepy, and he uploaded so many that I can barely even fucking fit them on one screenshot. And this guy's been going around on his social medias basically bragging about how many views and subs he's been getting from this situation, not realizing how fucking insane he looks. And I don't think anyone's impressed by it, because with these two guys, whenever they post videos that aren't about the Kwite situation, the videos flop. So while they might be gaining numbers right now, as soon as they stop posting about this situation, their channel will just go back to being dead. But yeah, that's about it for today's video, boys. If you do see any other people milking the ever-living shit out of this situation, be sure to call them out in the comment section. But yeah, that's it for me for today's video, boys. I appreciate you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Follow my Twitter whilst you're down there. See you in the next one. Peace out.
could take you up in paradise like flowers.